want to welcome Tom DiSalvi to our campaign for Drowsy Driving Prevention Week. Tom is the Vice President of Safety, Driver Training, and Compliance at Schneider National. In this role, Tom's responsible for researching and implementing breakthrough safety technologies and processes to help prevent motor vehicle crashes. This is consistent with Schneider's core value of safety first and always. He joined Schneider in 1991 after serving as an officer in the U.S. Navy, and Tom's also a member of the board of directors of the National Sleep Foundation. Welcome, Tom.
At Schneider, we have a multi-pronged fatigue prevention program, and I'll talk about each of those prongs. We start with education and awareness. While most adults realize that you need to have sleep to perform well the next day, they don't always understand the detail. They don't always understand the physiological need for sleep, and that's what we train our driver associates when they first start at Schneider, and provide that type of awareness throughout the course of their tenure at Schneider. What is the importance of consecutive hours of sleep, of REM sleep, the importance of being alert throughout the course of the next day, or when you need what we would refer to as strategic napping. We cover that in our education. We also cover signs and symptoms of fatigue. And I think to many people, it would seem, well, isn't it obvious when you're tired? But the reality is, for many of us, the researchers will tell us that we tend to be the worst judge of our own fatigue. And so by being able to articulate signs and symptoms, help driver associates recognize, yeah, I might be getting tired and it's time to start thinking about a place to get some rest. And then, so of course, then finally, how do you get proper rest? That is something else that we cover in our training. That would include anywhere from, as I mentioned, the napping when appropriate during the course of the day, or consecutive hours of sleep when your duty shift is done, how to sleep in your truck and make the environment comfortable and conducive to sleep, and once you're at home, how to do the same thing. So we do spend a lot of time on education in that space. In addition, another prong is our operational processes. We want to make sure that our driver leaders, our frontline leaders, not only understand our tenets of fatigue management, but also they are looking for specific things that they can coach the drivers on, making sure that every dispatch has time for proper rest for our drivers. And also another important piece is coaching our drivers on the avoidance of what we would call shift start variation. So someone that might drive during the day and sleep at night, but then drives at night and sleeps during the day, and vice versa, because of the nature of their loads or delays or traffic. We know that is something to be avoided, because that's very difficult on your body in terms of getting restful sleep. So that's something that we educate our operations leaders on as well, so that we can continue that awareness with our driver associates. At Schneider, we also have a sleep disorder screening program, and arguably we were one of the first trucking companies in the industry to develop a comprehensive sleep apnea program. We started this back in 2006, and the idea was that treatment for sleep disorders, again, many people don't realize that they have a sleep disorder, and so it's not obvious to them. By all drivers coming to Schneider getting screened for sleep apnea, we're then able to identify those that might be at risk for sleep apnea. We send them to a clinic to be tested for sleep apnea at no cost to our driver associate. And if our associates have Schneider medical benefits, there is no cost for CPAP therapy and treatment. Because we realize that if you're suffering from sleep apnea, not being treated and utilizing your treatment every day is not only important for safety, it's important for the long-term health of the individual. And certainly that's a value of ours at Schneider. Finally, the last tenet that I'll mention is that we leverage technology. So we have education, we have processes, we have sleep disorder screening and treatment. But even in the cab, when we still need assistance, we're looking for technology, and we've found it and we leverage it that will assist our associates actively. So for example, when the truck is drifting from the lane, we have lane departure warning systems to alert them that you've drifted from your lane, and it's the reminder that it's time to find a safe place to park. Or collision mitigation, our radar system that will identify which is particularly beneficial in the evening hours, there's a slower moving or stopped object in your path and you're not braking fast enough. And if necessary, it will take control of the truck and provide braking for the driver. So just a host of things, but all of which I would emphasize, and I think important for any company that has a fatigue management program, is all these tenets are under the umbrella of a safety culture. At Schneider, our primary core value is safety first and always. And while our work is important, we are very clear that nothing that we do or nothing that we haul is worth risk hurting ourselves or others. So we make sure that our driver associates know that as what we would use the phrase, the captain of the ship, whether it's bad weather, whether you're sick, or if you're tired, regardless of how many hours you've driven in a day, maybe you've only driven an hour, you think you shouldn't be tired, but you are. We want you to find a safe place to park, get off the road, contact us with an update, and get your rest. Because again, nothing to us is more important than safety, and proper rest is critical to staying alert behind the wheel.
Thanks, Tom. Tom, I have a two-part question for you. First, thinking about your experiences, what do you think the role of industry can be, yours and others, like vehicle manufacturers or mobility companies, even motor clubs and insurers? What's the role moving forward to broaden efforts to help ensure alert driving? That's the first part. Second part is, what might be the most immediate next steps for these stakeholders to take?
From my perspective, what I think motor carriers and freight haulers can do with respect to fatigue management immediately, as well as motor clubs or insurance companies or even automobile manufacturers. I think it's, again, as I mentioned, you can start with that foundation of understanding that it's more than just sleep. It's getting restful sleep before you get behind the wheel. So I think for motor carriers, two things. One is ensuring that their operators understand the importance of avoiding rotating shifts whenever possible, or the challenge that is involved if for some reason your shift has to rotate, that you may be sleeping during a period of circadian low, or that recognize you may need to take more breaks because this is a challenge from your sleep schedule, but ultimately avoiding it. That would be the first thing. And then the second item for motor carriers or freight haulers would be to state very clearly to all associates that productivity is important, but nothing is more important than safety. I think a lot of organizations would say, well, that goes without say. In my experience is you need to say it. You need to clearly articulate it for associates to recognize this is our number one priority. And to achieve that, you need to have proper rest. For the insurers, for the motor clubs, for the automobile manufacturers, again, although not professional drivers, I think it's important that the public in general understand what are the best times to start a trip or to avoid a trip based on circadian rhythms. Am I going to be driving into a sunset or driving into a sunrise, periods of time where you might be sleepier? What are my circadian rhythms? Why does that matter when I drive? And I think more importantly is just the whole idea of it's a huge responsibility getting behind the wheel of an automobile. And you need to make sure if you're making a trip that you are well rested. And well rested means getting consecutive hours of sleep the night before, the day before, depending on what time period a motorist is going to begin a trip. So certainly, again, creating that foundation of understanding. Then as a follow-up or what the next best approach would be is once you've established this degree of education, I do think there's an opportunity for technology to be standard in motor vehicles, whether it's a Class 8 tractor or whether it's an automobile. Things that will actively help the motorist either recognize that they are tired and they need to find a safe place to rest, because that is the ultimate goal, or at the very least, something that could be a safety net for them. If they're operating tired and they don't realize it, there's technology that will prevent them from getting into an accident, such as I mentioned earlier, whether it's lane departure warning or collision mitigation. I do believe for the future, as we see the improvements made in autonomous vehicles, the technology for autonomous vehicles is so great that we were finding that technology, until it's ready for fully autonomous, is something that can be leveraged for automobiles and trucks to also assist the operator. So before we get to that point of full autonomy, having the type of technology, the LiDAR and the high quality radar, et cetera, can be of great assistance to motorists, particularly those that don't realize they're tired and eventually are going to be alerted that you need to find a safe place to park and get your rest. And of course, the final step. I mean, I know I've talked about education, I've talked about technology. I think for a lot of people, the question is going to be, where are these resources? How do I get this information? And I would, of course, recommend, the first recommendation would be the National Sleep Foundation. The National Sleep Foundation is the authority for sleep health and provides expert insights for all types of questions or challenges regarding proper sleep, proper rest, sleep disorders. And that would be my first recommendation in terms of where somebody can go to find more information.